Welcome to the OVN podcast. Today we got a couple professional MMA fighters with us today, and I'm really excited to say one of them is a champion. We got to watch her win the belt a couple weeks ago at Bellator. She was down in Hawaii of all places. But we have Liz Carmouche, former Marine, and like I said, champion. I mean, we were proud to have our logo with her down there, and she just whipped up on the competition. And then we also have Connor Matthews here. Connor's an up-and-coming pro and Air Force veteran. We're going to hear from these two tonight about both sides of it, about being a veteran, their service to this country, that transition out, and then about their MMA career. So we're going to have a good time. I want to see who tells the best jokes, because I guarantee it's not me. So, so we'll jump into it real quick. Liz, you lead off. Tell us just a little bit about, who you are, a little bit about your military background first.
Okay, I got out as an E5, so as a sergeant in the Marine Corps. I was an aviation electrician. So basically, I worked on CH-46 Echo, otherwise known as the Frog. And if it had any wires running to it, which there was miles of it, I was responsible for having to fix anything that went wrong. So when other shops to break it, we were called in to fix it and keep the aircraft in the air, trying to save lives and keep that going. I did 3 tours of combat to Iraq between 2005 to 2009. And in 2009, I got out of the Marine Corps honorably and started a whole different chapter in life.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you one question, and this is something when I read a little bit about your background and we talked before. Tell everybody a little bit about something unique you did as a Marine in the Lioness program, which was, hats off to you. That was pretty cool. Tell them a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, I had heard just through the grapevine about a program called the Lioness program. And when I originally tried to join the Marine Corps, based on my ASVAB score, I was told I could do any MOS I wanted. And then, of course, when I talked to my recruiter, I was told, well, you're a female, so you actually have this very small group of MOS that you can do.
Yeah.
I just told them, I was like, hey, whatever job I can do, or basically I'm never home. I'm constantly on the move and I get to work out just by doing my job.
Right.
And what I told them specifically is nothing with electricity. That's like the last thing that I want to do. So of course, that's what I got stuck with.
That's what you got. Yeah. Good recruiter.
When I had gone in, what appealed to me was the idea of being on the front lines. It was doing counterintelligence, being a real combat Marine. And when I heard through the grapevine about the Lioness program, it was everything that I thought I wanted to do prior to getting in when I talked to my recruiter. And I extended my contract just for a few more months so I could deploy with my unit just so I could do the Lioness program. And what that meant is I was attached to ground unit, grunt unit, and I got to go outside of the wire where we'd had all the aircrafts and we were working in Iraq and actually be able to go on combat missions, be able to go on patrols, be able to go and see people, which you don't really see. You just kind of see the other Marines that you're working with, but actually go outside of the wire and go one-on-one with people and talk to them. I got to learn Arabic and was expedited in learning it fast in 9 days, I think. And I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I was fortunate enough that it was supposed to be a 1-month program. But thankfully I did so well when I was out there, and I was one of the only Lioness groups that had ever been extended for an additional month. So instead of just doing 1 month with them and just helping them out and being able to approach women and talk to women about things that they were seeing, which the men couldn't do because of cultural differences, that allowed us to be able to actually go out there and do that. They extended us 1 additional month so we continue doing that and helping out that unit.
That's cool. I know, I think I learned 6 or 7 words of Arabic to get around. Shukran, salam alaikum, the real key ones, But I was a mechanic over there, and they didn't let us out too much, so they figured we'd probably get ourselves hurt. But,
exactly.
So Connor, tell us a little bit about your. Connor's an Air Force guy. Let me leave with this very unique job in the Air Force. Not very many guys do this, but tell us about that, Connor.
So I was an Air Force combat controller. So for people that don't know, a combat controller are Air Force guys, but we attached to Army Special Forces and we attached to like Navy SEAL teams. I did 6 years of that. 2.5 of that years were training. So we had to get qualified and everything between jump, dive, just our tactics and all, anything combat related. There's a lot of training we have to do. So that took a while. Once I got through that, I got stationed up in Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington, and I was there for a couple of years, and I deployed to Afghanistan. So When I was deployed to Afghanistan, I kind of had 2 mission sets that we would do. So my first mission set is I would, as a certified air traffic controller. So I would go out to airfields, which we call like FARPs, which are forward air refueling points. And I would, do all the air traffic controller, set up a runway, set up whatever I had to do in that area. I would go do that. And then the other job we do is we attach to like special forces teams, and I get to go out and help out so I wasn't a certified JTAC at the time because it was like my first deployment. So a JTAC is the guy who calls in the airstrikes. And so I was just assisting the JTAC. So, but it was awesome. I get to get outside, like Liz, I got to get outside the wire, got in a few combat missions, and, I get to do that whole side of the job. Being a combat controller is awesome. Like Liz was just saying, I got to travel. I was out the door all the time, constantly traveling, constantly learning, doing cool new things, physically challenging. The pipeline really was super difficult, especially at the water confidence part with like the dive school and everything. And they have to, put you through a lot of stressful, like basically drowning you, but it's a lot of stressful training for that really like helped me later on in life, especially with my MMA career. So yeah, that's what I did. It was awesome. It was 6 years, and then I got out and come back to martial arts doing this thing.
Yeah, I think, two things, one, deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan. What I saw there was both of you had a lot of interactions with the locals, with Afghan and with Iraq. I think that's a lot of people that, when we're on our base, when we're inside the wire, we understand that, in my personal experiences, I was on convoys more than anything than when I went outside. But whenever we you do that, it is a very different experience. That's probably the most nerve-wracking thing I ever did, when I was deployed. So,
yeah.
But talking about that in both, both of you we're going to talk about MMA, but so when I'd like people to hear, like when you left the military, or let's start this way. At what point did you get into MMA? But then when you left, like the military, what part did that play in your life? And not necessarily MMA, but maybe martial arts or whatever. So kind of, Liz, you talk me through like how you got into all this, like mixed martial arts and that, and then what was your transition out of military life and what part did that play in it?
Yeah, during my 3rd deployment, in seeking out wanting to do the Lioness program, when I participated in doing the ground training with them, there was a grappling aspect. One of the gunnery sergeants that was working in the unit, he was a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So he was trying to teach us moves, and that was part of progressing through our belts, because in my unit, they didn't care about belt promotion, even though that was necessary to get rank promotion. Of course, I was fascinated with it. I thought it was really cool. It was a fun aspect that I was learning that I want to continue on. But they're like, we don't want to risk you guys getting injured. And then, of course, when I was attached to this unit, I'm like, we have to do it. We have no choice. This is great. So I was just eating it up, and I was loving every moment of it. And even through all the failures and training with these bigger guys, it was an opportunity for me to prove myself. Like, if I can carry this 225-pound guy, if I can submit this 225-pound guy, I prove that I have a right to be here and that they can lean on me and count on me and not have to have any doubts when I'm working with them. But when I came back for that, it just made me so much hungrier to learn more about it, and not having my unit be able to fulfill that, I knew it was something I had to seek on my own. And so I started getting into training. I found a gym that I thought was going to help support that. It wasn't. It was more of like a Kempo karate place. And the guy, when he was learning jiu-jitsu, would run back to his computer, look up stuff, and then come back. He didn't actually know what he was doing. But of course, at that time, you have no idea. And of course, when we're deploying, I'm seeing videos, because I had a major who's like, you should really get into MMA. I watched a Strike Force fight, and I don't even remember who it was. But somebody got cut on their head, and they were gushing blood everywhere. Which now I know, scalp cuts, lacerations, those bleed more than anything. It has no indication of the damage done. They just bleed like a sieve. That's just how it is. But at the time, I didn't know that. All I see is these people cheering him on. This guy's bleeding everywhere, covered in blood. They're still going. At the end of it, the guy that won the fight was just too ego-driven. He was super amped up, being really belligerent. And I'm like, this is not appealing at all. First, this guy who's being disrespectful to the other one that lost. And that guy's, there's blood all over the mats and the canvas is now red from it. No, I have no interest in doing this whatsoever.
Right.
This is like street fights on TV.
Yeah.
But I found the BJ Penn book, and it really just started with the diet, started with the workouts that they had in there, and really liked the results I was getting. I was like, okay, there's something more here. I just missed some elements between what I experienced when I actually learned from this gunnery sergeant and learned those jujitsu moves. And then what I've read in this book, there's a lot more to it. I want to learn more. So when I got back, I had gotten out of the Marine Corps, and I had a roommate who I talked about the entire time we were in Iraq. Like, I want to fight MMA. I want to fight Chris Cyborg. I think I can beat her.
Yeah.
You know, after I did all this research, not realizing like I am not a 145er. I am far too small to be a 145er. But in my mind, like, we're the same size. I'm 160. It's like, who cares that I'm the shortest person even in the 125 division? So I'd been talking about it. I was applying for jobs. I wasn't able to get jobs, and it was just going nowhere, but I'd had a dream of MMA. And finally my roommate's like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of seeing you apply for jobs. You keep talking about MMA. Go. You have to go to the gym. I'm like, I don't have money to do it. She's like, we'll figure it out. So at that point, we all shared a key for our house. And so she locked me out of the house. She was the only one with the key, and I wasn't allowed to come back until I actually went and signed up at the gym. And the rest, fortunately, has been history.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. So, Connor, you know, I know you've been into, you know, the jujitsu, you know, for a long time, you know, before the military, but tell everybody a little bit about your time and how you got, you know, really into MMA where you are now.
So actually, I started off with traditional martial arts growing up. I was a Kempo as well. American Kempo was my style when I was a kid growing up. So when I was a kid, I used to do, as a hockey player, and in my off season, I do martial arts. So I do like the karate point sparring systems, and I loved it. And that was like, when I was a kid, that was like my favorite thing. So as I got older, high school came around. I focused more on hockey because that's kind of like what my high school sport was, you know what I mean? So I did like 3 years of playing hockey, and then it was actually my junior year, I believe it was. I went into a MMA gym called Lakeville MMA, and I started that. And then I started the jiu-jitsu portion of MMA. I got into that. So that was a huge mind opening. Like, just like, I didn't realize how much like somebody with a little bit of jiu-jitsu could control somebody and beat somebody up. So I got in there, got beat up by he was my sensei, but he used to beat me up. So I really fell in love with that during high school, my junior year. And we started going up to Joe Lozon's gyms after we got done training at my Lakeville MMA. We started with Joe Lozon's at night. So I just got like addicted to that. So anytime I wasn't playing hockey, I was doing martial arts. My senior year, my last game of the season, I was a playoff game. I blew out my shoulder. So it was like it was like the first shift of like a big game. My team ended up losing, so we didn't end up going to the final. If we would have won that, we would have played in the Garden. So it would have been like a big deal. So I blew up my shoulder. And then like after that, I kind of like lost my drive to before that, I wanted to play college hockey. That was my whole goal. And then I kind of just lost that drive for some reason when I blew up my shoulder. But I did get back into like to deal with my mental issues of like, being like upset about like losing my dream of being like a college hockey player. Mm-hmm. I kind of just fell into martial arts and using that, to help me. And so, I did that for like 2.5 years after I graduated, took a couple fights. I had my first amateur fight, like literally in June. So I graduated in like May, and then June I had my first amateur fight when I was 18. Super, super addicted to it at that point. Like after I got my first fight, that's all I wanted to do. Although my parents were getting on me like, hey man, like you're not gonna be fighting, you know what I mean? Like what's your plan? I'm like, I'll do construction and I'll fight. They're like, no, that's not gonna. So that's kind of when we started looking into the military. And so I went to go join the so I wanted to be a Navy SEAL originally. And the recruiter would not give me a contract. He thought that like to be a Navy SEAL is like impossible. You know what I mean? Like you had to be like some absolute like freak of nature. And I was like, I can do this. But he just didn't really give me the job. So that's when I walked across the hall, talked to the Air Force recruiter. They got me into this whole special operations things. I took the test, passed it, made it through and all that. So anyways, 5.5 years goes by, deploy. I couldn't really train too much in the military besides like what I would train with my friends. We would do combatives or like You know, me and my friends hop on the weekends and like on the mats. I mean, do some rolling, you know what I mean? And so not too much training, but after I came back from Afghanistan, I was dealing with some issues of like I think just adjusting, not knowing what I wanted to do. I did my deployment. So I felt like I did what I wanted to do in the military. I got my combat deployment. I saw that. I don't know if I want to keep on doing this. So I didn't know what I really wanted to do. So when I came back, there's an MMA gym across the street from the base I was stationed at, and that's when I started training again. And I just fell in love with it again. And I just feel like after my military training, I don't know if it was because I was older and all the training with it, I just got so much better, so much faster than like I did any time in my life. Like I was picking things up. I was just like, I basically took all my frustration and all my worries. I just put it back into martial arts. And then since then, I took 3 fights while I was in, 3 amateur fights. I won, actually won one, lost one. And then I decided like, this is what I wanted to do. I moved back home, and then I just started training under Joe Lozon's gym full time. And you know, last 2.5 years, I mean, I've had a couple setbacks. I had a knee surgery. I had a pandemic that kind of put a big pause in my career.
Yeah, that helps everybody. Yeah.
But you know, we're getting there. 5-0 right now. But, you know, got the Dana White's Contender Series coming up in August. So it's been awesome, man. I'm so happy. Like, you know, I'm just lucky that I had my parents put me into martial arts as a kid and showed me this tool to use. You know what I mean? And I just got really, really lucky with a lot of things. So we're fortunate.
And I think that's cool. You know, how if people hear that is someone maybe you looked up to, or maybe you worked with, or somewhere you've got introduced to this, and that's where you saw it. What I want, like, you know, we talk about jujitsu, but martial arts to a lot of veterans that are having problems with, we call it like transitional stress getting out of the military. They can't adapt to civilian life. They don't necessarily have PTSD. They maybe did some combat, you know, and we know there's some girls and guys that do combat and they don't suffer from PTSD right away. Let's put it that way, or whatever. But what's really interesting here is when you were introduced to this, you immediately saw this, something engaged with you. There was this outlet, you know what I mean? But not only that outlet, but then you gained a passion for it. You know, different motivations, like Liz got locked out of a house. You know, you know, that's interesting. You know, one other thing I picked up on both conversation is Liz's recruiter sucked. And yours was pretty decent. I think she said no electrical and they make her avionics. And at least your guy was going in the right direction.
Yeah, he was.
but you know, one of the other reasons that we wanted to bring you on is being veterans, being combat veterans. You know, this month is PTSD Awareness Month. And we all know we serve with a lot of guys and girls that dealt and do deal with serving their military service in different ways. It's a struggle for a lot. It's some are still, you know, the tough thing is a lot of people still wear the uniform and are challenged while they're in, and they're afraid to say something. They're afraid to lose that clearance. They're going to become non-deployable. You know, an interesting thing from both of you that I wanted other veterans to really, I hope they pulled out of here, was the purpose it gave you to be in that role, deployed, to be in the Lioness program, to be in Afghanistan. Both of you, I heard you say you extended, Liz. You know, Connor, you said, I feel like I wanted to go in the military. I wanted to not just train, but actually do what I've learned to do in real time for our country.
Yep.
You know, and to me, both of you are you're war heroes. You know what I mean? That's a big term we hear thrown around, but that's exactly who you are. You volunteered, you wore the uniform, and you look for the opportunity to go one step above and do something. You look for that next challenge. And I think that mentality is what makes you great MMA fighters as well, because you're always looking for that next challenge, that next one to win. But, you know, with PTSD, TBI, depression, those are the things OVN, we really look for ways to get veterans connected to programs. You know, we're not about just, hey, get them in the VA get them in a therapy or psychologist. And, that may be, everybody has their own way, but what we've seen greater success with is doing things like this, getting into a physical, mental program like jujitsu and mixed martial arts, things like that. So Liz, tell us a little bit about, purely from when you left the military, not only physically, but mentally, what does, practicing, jujitsu, mixed martial arts, what does that do for you?
Yeah, I would say that practicing in martial arts, it doesn't matter if it's boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, it's my sanity. There's definitely one thing I recognized when I got out. It was like what you said, it's that transitional stress. It's not knowing where you fit into society, not knowing the jargon, how to talk to civilians, not knowing how to associate with their lifestyles and things that they've been going through. Right. I mean, I did 5 years, and for the 5 years that I had friends that were civilians, and then the 5 years I had when I was in the military, I didn't know how to associate their 5 years that passed for them with my 5 years that passed and how to line up. And so there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of stress with not knowing how to deal with it, with not having the outcome that I anticipated, with not being able to find jobs and apply correctly, not even knowing how to correctly put together a resume to present what I thought was an easy target. Like, here I am, I've done all these things, and I've done this honorably and above and beyond, and so many things. This should be an easy resume. I should be targeted for jobs easily. And that wasn't the case because I didn't know how to write it. So there was a lot of anger and a lot of stress, a lot of loss and not knowing where to fit in with people. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I always found that leveled me out was exhausting myself in the gym. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like taking every worry and stress you have away, like getting hit in the face. Like, that would take it away so quick. Just hit one good headshot, have your bell rung, and you suddenly forgot every woe that was waiting. True. So I always knew that if for at least for that duration of time that I was in the gym, whether it was 3 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, there was an exit for a little bit. There was a release. There was a forgetting every woe, every difficulty I had, no matter how heavy it was, no matter how deep and how dark it was all gone. The moment I stepped foot into the gym, it all went away. Now, it could very well come back the moment I went back through and it went through the door again, but I had a different appreciation and a different look on it, better control on how to approach it. Right. And that's always been the case. I know they're like, oh, okay, well, I took 2 weeks off of training. And as much as like, yeah, my body may need it, my mind cannot handle it. Yeah. My mind and my body feel so much better when I'm training. And I always tell my wife, I'm like, this is done for our sanity. I can't not train today because we both know, like, I'm a better person if I train. Yeah. And there's always the camaraderie that I experience. There's accountability, particularly with active duty and veterans that are in there. The people that you connect with is, if you miss a day, they're calling you up wondering why you weren't there. Yeah. And there's a different joking that you can get. You're trying to submit somebody and you're saying inappropriate jokes that are only acceptable from military experience. Right. And if I said that to anybody else, like, are you kidding me right now? But to another vet, we just laugh it off, choke each other out, and then try harder again and keep progressing through. Yeah. And I've only, no matter what hobby, what anything else that I ventured into, I've never felt that in anything else other than in martial arts. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I tell you,
that's so important, to me. What caught me right off when you said that is when you went in there and you have that workout and you recognize there is something that makes me feel better. And that's what we try to tell, to find out get on a motorcycle, go out and run, do something, a hobby, whatever. You got to find that thing that makes you smile, makes you feel, wow, that was good. And like you said, the reality of it is we could walk out the door and it could creep back on us, but we always know, remember, everybody, there's always a way. There's always a way. We talk about this thing with veteran suicide, and that's why OVN, that's why we do what we do. And when I meet veterans like you, the passion to help other veterans is what we just love about really directing our focus on athletes, veteran athletes. But that's such a key thing. And I will add to every list we have, if that doesn't work, have somebody punch you in the mouth. And then, that's that was good though. So Connor, tell us a little bit about you. What's it do for you? We've talked about this a little bit, hitting the gym, jujitsu,
Yeah, never mind just the lifestyle of being a martial artist. I think that surrounds it, like, compared to like a lot of other lifestyles. Like, you have to be pretty healthy if you want to go into the gym and perform well. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like a martial arts in general. Like, for people that really get into it, usually comes like a full lifestyle, like, encompassing thing. So, never mind just getting on the mats. Like, every time you train or do jujitsu or train, like when you're in the zone, you're thinking about, like, basically what Liz is saying. You're thinking about only that match. There's nothing in the world that really matters besides what position you're in, what you're trying to do, or what technique we're learning. When you're in there, like, your brain just goes right into that. You're not worried about the outside world. You're not worried about anything. I think that's, like you said, that's just very, like, it's huge that, especially people who are dealing with so much stress, they don't know what to do with. You know what I mean? Like, you go in there and you forget about everything else. Hey, that's but I think never mind, you're getting a good workout. So, it's just good for your everything overall, releasing endorphins, dealing with stress, looking better, everything really, I think that's big. That's huge parts of it. But the biggest thing for me, I think, is the community of martial arts. The friendships and bonds I gained through, like, training is, like, especially one of my closest training partners now, this kid, Carlos Azoya. He was a former Army Ranger, and we got out in the same area, and he moved here to come. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think anybody else would do that. Like, take that risk of moving from Washington to Massachusetts all the way across the country. You know what I mean? Just because, like, we're training partners, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think other people would do that for any other circumstances. You can get a gym anywhere else. But like, martial arts is, like, there's almost more to it than just, like, you can go, like, I can go play hockey anywhere in the country, and I'm just a part of a team on it. But, like, the bonds you build with, like, your coaches and your training partners, and it's like Liz, I've never seen it even in special operations teams. You know what I mean? There's an ego that gets really in the way in special operations. I feel like and don't get me wrong, there are fighters with egos, but overall, like, like, when you're to be productive in the gym, egos seem to go away. I feel like there's not egos in the gym. There's only egos in fighters when they're going against each other, doing cocky, whatever, make whatever they're doing. But, like, in the gym, everybody's, like, in there, like, you can have two really, like, purely cocky fighters, but they're in there when they're training together, the ego goes away. I swear to God, I've never seen anything else have that happen. So I think, like, in the military, like, I feel like there's a lot of that rank and people putting each other down, and especially in my career field, I saw that, and I love my career field. Don't get me wrong, like, my combat controllers are some of my best friends in the world, but, like, when you're working with type A personalities all the time, everybody's in this pecking order but there's nothing to solve those problems besides, they can't just get on, like, fuck it, let's go fight. In the gym, you can do that. So there's no, you know what I mean? Like, there's no pecking order. Like, if there is a pecking order, it knows who's the best and who's the worst. You can literally go down there, and there's weight classes, so it doesn't really matter. So the thing is just, like, something about, like, I can go into a gym and it's like, it's a lot of like-minded people who are very supportive in many different ways. And I feel like I've made the best, like, friendships and community within the martial arts world. That's the biggest thing for me. I think that's helped me. I'm a part of a community, and, like, I feel like a lot of veterans, and they're getting out of the military, is they had a community that maybe wasn't the best for them, and then they get out, and then they don't have any community, and they don't, like Liz is saying, like, they don't know how to, like, the normal problems for a civilian. To me, like, I remember when I first came back from Afghanistan, I remember seeing, like, college kids and stuff like that, and what they're complaining about, and I'm just like, bro, I just came from, like, this is your problem. This is what you're mad about right now. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much worse and, like, messed up world, like, things going on in the world, and this is your problem. And I remember that making me mad at everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but then I just went to martial arts. I trained, and then I'd be like, why do I care? And it doesn't even matter. I'm not going to change these people's perspective. They, you know what I mean? They just kind of laugh it off. So I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. And that's important. What you mentioned, Liz, like, you fill out a resume and you think about what you just walked out. In your case, it's like I'm old. I stayed in 22 years and I got out, and it was a struggle for me because I had 20 troops working for me at one time, and I got out, and it really did not transition to anything other than leadership. And let's be honest, civilian leadership, as much as they say thank you for your service, they don't trust our leadership. They think we all punch each other in the mouth,
Yeah.
But so that's such an excellent point, with resumes and all that. And so I encourage veterans, like we have a couple organizations we work with. We actually have some guys, we haven't done a lot of work with them that if they're like tier 1 military, they focus on that. But, you know, I encourage veterans to really look at it that way. You know, not everything is clear cut, like, oh, I suffer from PTSD and I'm having a problem, or I don't. There's always levels of transition that we deal with, like getting a job, fitting back into society. We meet so many veterans that they go back to their hometown and they don't, it's like, I'm not Tony, who I used to be 4, 6, 8 years ago. Or your buddies that you go back there to and friends are, they're still, you know, working at McDonald's and, you know, they're not going anywhere. So anyways, it's good to hear that, because that's really what we want veterans to take away. You too, Connor, you're up and coming fast. You know, this Dana White, the Contender Series is a really cool thing for you. Liz, I mean, you set the bar. I mean, it's amazing what you've accomplished. And talk about the never quit mentality. You know, you went in there, you fought the best of the best, and you worked your way to that belt. I mean, we could just impressive, you know. So that's why I really, you know, you two, I wanted to talk to you today, other veterans, to hear this. We're going to share it with a lot of veterans. We're actually going to send our video out to some bases. Okay. Awesome. And we want some active duty military. And I got a couple guys that work a program, and they're going to get it out. And we want people to start to follow you that are in the military and say, hey, look, these are veterans. They did this and they moved on, but they have the same struggles as you when they leave. But they use that veteran mentality, saying, we'll work through this together. You know, you found that togetherness in a gym. One of the things you mentioned, Connor, was, you know, like you said, you know, we tell everybody, you know, being in the military is like far from perfect. Just because a person wears a uniform doesn't mean they're this great, you know, American. But they did raise the hand. They did volunteer to serve their country. And I applaud everyone, and we help every veteran the same. But you find a special bond outside. But you mentioned that Army Ranger, that Army guy, he came all the way across the country for a reason. You had that bond in mixed martial arts, but we have that bond as veterans that people just don't understand. You know, we have that, and even amongst the branches, you know, Liz, you mentioned, you know, all the, we're allowed to tell jokes that outside people are not allowed to tell. And we talk about each other's branch, like people think we would hate each other, but, you know, we'd give it up for each other no matter what. So, you know, really, really cool conversation. We could talk about that for so long, but, you know, the subject of PTSD this month, we want people to always be there for our veterans, keep this on their mind, but really elevate this to everybody, family members, friends, neighbors. You are the one that can help save a veteran's life just by saying, hey, how you doing today? You know, things of that nature. When's the last time you talked to somebody you were stationed with? You know, so things like that. So spinning forward, I'd like to talk to you about, you know, the now and present. You know, you're both are just super successful. So Liz, what's the next big thing in MMA? Where are we going to see you next? What you can tell us, you know, you might still be classified. I don't know. So,
yeah, you know, like I was saying earlier, I got back, I took a little bit of time off just to help with family, spend some more time with them, take care of all the responsibilities that get put on the back burner whenever I'm in fight camp. But now it's just back to the drawing board and trying to evolve, trying to grow, work on the mistakes I saw that presented themselves in my fight to make sure that the next one is even better and I put on a better performance. So it's just telling Bellator, give me a fight. I'm ready. I'm ready for that title defense. And just give me a phone call and I'm ready to get back in there.
Hey, and I told AJ already, we're there for you. You know what I mean? OVN wants to be a part of it as much as we can help. That's what our program is about, helping our veterans. You know, anything we can do to help, that's what it's all about. So, Connor, what's next for you? I know a little bit about it. I let it out, but go ahead, tell everybody what's going on.
So yeah, August 2nd, I'm fighting for Dana White's Contender Series. So for that fight, it's there's no fans. It's at the UFC Apex, and it's you fight. They hand out contracts generally, so you're not necessarily guaranteed one if you win, But if you go out there and you put on a show and Dana sees what he likes, and they know there's a good chance you get a contract. So I'm feeling really, really good. I'm feeling the best I've ever felt. My camp has been going amazing. I've been having a super long camp because I was training for another fight. That fight was actually supposed to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we had to pull out of that because I'm waiting for August. So it's been a really long camp, but I'm ready to go. I'm super excited. I think I'm gonna, get that contract and,
Cool.
and accomplish my dream of being in the UFC.
You have, Liz, you have any words of advice for Connor in the UFC or wherever he goes?
Yeah, one, I mean, as far as going on the Contender Series and presenting yourself in front of Dana, it's lay everything on the line. Pretend like this is the last fight and the only fight of your entire career, and you have to showcase everything at that moment. And if he can go out there and do that, like you said, he'll get a contract. And then it's a matter of what most people don't realize in the UFC is the media obligations that they require. When I was in the UFC, I had to allocate at minimum 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, to be able to do television, radio, podcasts, and phone interviews. And I think a lot of people aren't prepared for the stress that can come with. And then when you arrive fight week, there isn't as much focus on your ability to cut weight. You kind of have to show up ready to go, because that whole week you're running around doing whatever they need you to. So as long as you have that idea in your mind going into it, it's super easy to handle the UFC.
That's cool. So really, really good stuff. So we'll wrap it up here. We're hitting about 40 minutes, and I know when I watch podcasts, I start dozing off about this time. So, I tell you again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for your service. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for sitting on here. This is good for other veterans. This is good for our brothers and sisters that we serve with and that still serve. And there'll be more coming out. So like I said, we'll launch this on June 27th, PTSD Awareness Day. We'll make sure we share it on there. And other than that, thanks again, and best of luck. And I can't wait to see you both in the cage again. This is really, really looking forward to it. All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Tony. Thank you.